All right, welcome to Flight 29 out here on Saturday. It was the first day of the Ladybirds flying here in Santa Barbara. I'm up here launching off of Eliminator. Great to see the new faces out there flapping their wings. A couple people, their first time at this site. Love to see it. And taking off here. So it was a little bit of an east wind this day, and that created, number one, not great thermal conditions, and then number two, kind of created the potential and kind of the desire for a different flight path than usual. So usually you would see me going out to the left here, right off the launch, kind of hugging along that ridge line and then going for the antenna farm. But actually what was recommended today by Willie was going to the right, directly across the valley over towards the tunnel tit area, and just kind of aiming for the top of that right power line over there. And that's just because I'd be fighting this east wind if I went to the left. And so if I go to the right, I don't have to fight that wind crossing across the valley-ish area, fighting in that sink going slower. Instead, I get down along the ridge on the tunnel tit side, go by the power lines, and then I don't have to fight as much headwind as I'm crossing through sinking air. So when I'm going through the sinking air, I want to be going, as fast as possible, not like diving into it just because it's super inefficient glide, but I want to make sure that I'm not going slow in sinking air for a super long time. And so what happens when I go to the right here is it puts me in a little bit more of a risky situation of potentially ending up having to land at St. Mary's. But if the glide isn't terrible out over there, I end up over there, and then when I do cross over the valley, I just have a much shorter distance to cross because the valley kind of is shaped like a V and it's much more narrow at that point. And so when I do cross, as I go directly into that headwinds of that east wind, it's a much shorter distance, as well as at that lower altitude, the east wind was not as strong. So down at Parma, there was basically no east wind. It's really just up higher in the mountain where the east wind is. And even higher up at the EJ launch, where I flew from my last flight, which is a great flight, it would be really strong. So we couldn't even launch from EJ on this day because that east wind was so much stronger up there. And that's just kind of how the wind was flowing over on this day and how it usually presents itself when there is an east wind on these mountains.
Bouncy. Whoa!
So getting over those power lines there, super excited. Run the clip, had some close calls with those power lines before. Glad to not have to deal with that at all. And actually I feel a couple little bumps of air here, but I don't think I have enough altitude to safely do a 360. I probably could have done it, but I'm glad I didn't, and I shouldn't have. But in hindsight, I probably could have gotten away with it, but it wasn't the right call because that's how you end up in a low situation. And as much as I love the low rider call sign, don't want to be low on the hang glider. So just messing around, doing a couple little turns, trying to see if there's like some super big thermal hiding out of nowhere. We saw a couple other pilots flying around, some paragliders before me, and they didn't get anything, so I'm not super hopeful, but I know I have a little bit of altitude, not enough for a 360, but I'm like, okay, I'll explore around a little bit, do some of these waving turns. And so I'm trying to get my my radio mic back up to the top. It's maybe something that I'll start putting higher up before I launch, just so it's ready to go.
Definitely some air moving up there. I was a little bit low to try and mess around with it though.
Hashtag lowrider.
But yeah, I got plenty of height over here. Probably could have done one more little turn over there to try to get something, but didn't see the PGs doing a whole lot, so I didn't think it was going to be that valuable.
Remember, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
And Willie just right on it with the smart remark there. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And so, yep, definitely glad that I made the right call not to do the 360. Good confirmation from Willie, the sage instructor there. Like, yeah, if it was going to be close, you shouldn't go for it. You don't want to go for close and hang gliding. You want to go for safe. You want to go for sure. And you want to land safely. You don't want to be like, oh, maybe I could have gotten a little higher, just maybe. You don't want to take those chances. You want to just play it safe, get down to the LZ with plenty of altitude, and have a nice safe landing. And just wait for a better day with better conditions to go have a good long flight.
It is crazy how flat it looks up here. Willie was saying that on the car ride up, and it's just a good reminder of how much of a downhill slope this whole thing is here. But when you're above it, like right now, it looks basically flat. It's very deceiving, but I mean, this road is extremely uphill, so yeah, that's interesting.
It is so fun to do this, just hands out. I noticed I rotate to the left a little bit, and I was actually curious if anyone had any ideas of why that is. I think it might be because of how the hang loop kind of is slightly twisted. And then also maybe just tuning in my wing. I'm not totally sure, but absolutely love hanging there. It feels exactly like how you feel when you fly in your dreams. If you're one of those people that feels like they're flying in their dreams. I always have flown in my dreams, not like great flights or anything, and it's not lucid dreaming, but there's dreams where I wake up and I'm like, dude, I was just flying. And I swear, like, this feels just like it, and it is so cool to be able to obtain that feeling in the real world, and that is why you should hang glide.
Yep, I heard a little beep, got plenty of altitude, so I decided to go for it. Didn't really pan out, but oh well. Feel fresh. 7-minute flight is a little different feeling than the old 2-hour one from a couple days ago. Feeling spry. I feel like I was going out of hibernation last time. This one I feel like I could go running or something. Okay, so actually pretty crosswind, which it's trending headwind, so that's pretty cool. Like that. Okay. Plenty of altitude here.
So starting to pull in here, and before it happens, I just kind of want to talk about something that I talked with Willie right after this flight, and he showed me the video that he took, this third-person video. But with my hands, and it's something I've been getting kind of lazy about or not remembering well, but as I'm transitioning, what I should be doing is putting one hand on the down tube, so those vertical triangular tubes. So there I should have just put one hand, left my right hand on, and then right before I start to flare, that's when I should bring my right hand up, because what happens is you can pop the nose up, and when you're turning, that just overbanks the turn, or just banks the turn more in general. But that can really put you in some dangerous situations that low to the ground. And so that's something that I'm really excited to work on my next flight, just because I've been noticing kind of all on these landings, it looks great for the thumbnail, but my body's like moving around a ton, and I'm just like doing these crazy big body movements, and that's because I'm kind of putting my hands up at the same time. So it's a really good reminder from Willie to do kind of this stance with my hands, and then as you're just starting to round out, getting in that nice smooth controlled air, that's when you bring your other hand up and then do your flare. So something that I'm excited to work on, and just like a tip for anyone that maybe is doing the same air as me that I just did in this flight, could be a good thing to look at. Thanks so much for watching. Excited for the 30th flight coming up next. Thanks so much for watching. If you're not already, drop a subscribe, and I'll catch you around. Thanks.